Hello yogis, my name is April and welcome to the Yoga Ranger Studio and welcome to this very special yin yoga practice. Today this practice is dedicated to Yoga Stops Yulin, a global yoga fundraiser event that aims to bring awareness to and fundraising event to a very, very important animal rescue and rehabilitation issue in the Asia Pacific. All of the funds raised during this event go directly to the rescue groups involved on the ground, taking action and helping save animals every single day at each one of these events. As someone who is deeply dedicated to animal welfare and rescue, this cause is super important to me. Regardless of whether it's local to me or anywhere around the world, rescuing animals is a huge priority for me. Saving those who cannot save themselves. So if you can, and if you will, take a look down below in the description and check out the links down there that give you a little bit more information about what Yoga Stops Yulin is all about, what this very important issue is all about around the world, and all the efforts that we have been putting forth to try to really support these groups that are taking action in that area. So please, at the end of this practice, take a moment, check out those links, see if you can donate, support, take action, share, maybe even foster or support or even adopt one of these wonderful animals that are being rescued and help, right? I hope you will. In this practice today, we're going to be working with a full body meridian balancing yoga practice, really focusing on the entire body. So be prepared for head to toe, right? For our practice, you don't need any props, but if you feel in your practice that having props nearby is super supportive, and maybe sometime during the practice you will need it, always take care of yourself, choosing the props, the modifications, and the poses that make the most sense for your body in this moment today. I am going to be using a blanket for the practice just because it makes sense for my body, but if you don't have a blanket, a towel, throw pillows, couch cushions, bolsters, pillows, anything that you might need, just have it around you. You can never have too much stuff around you for your practice. So we're going to begin our practice in child's pose. So if you want to protect your knees, you can using that blanket, or you can pull it off to the side until a little bit later. Taking the big toes together, knees wide apart, or as comfortably as you feel you want to go. Starting to walk your hands out. We're going to walk the hands a little bit over to the right. I'm going to take that left hand and curve it under as far as we can go over there. And then maybe taking your right hand on top of it. Now I like to take my hand on top because it helps really pull that arm a little bit more, but if you don't like that, you can always just rest the hand up above. Taking some nice deep breaths. Maybe turning your head to face down or to the side. As you're down here a little bit longer, maybe you start to really use a little pressure in that right hand to open up more of the back of the left shoulder, connecting to your breath. This first pose of our practice, finding your breath and starting to feel its movement And soothe the breath, settle into the pose. And gently release. Press your right hand into the floor. Pull that left arm across. Here we're going to start to walk ourselves over to the left this time. So we're having a little bit of a lateral stretch as well as a twist. And tucking that right arm underneath. Here again, placing your left hand on top if you like. Getting a nice deep twist across the back of the shoulders. Making any adjustments here, deepening or lessening that depth. Listening and checking in with your body, recognizing what you need in this moment. Gently taking your left hand down, starting to lift up and pull that right arm along the floor. Coming up, seated on your heels for a couple of breaths. Just noticing that space across the back side of the heart. And here maybe taking your blanket over to the left side. And perhaps placing your knee on that blanket. This might give you a little bit of cushioning that you might want. You could also use this blanket on the other side if you wanted to. Take your right leg out straight, toes pointed straight up. You might have a little 90-degree angle here between your two legs. Now here's some choices. You start to fold forward and maybe you come down just a certain height. Maybe your toes stay up. Maybe you fold all the way down and your toes come all the way down. I like to tilt my foot outer edge down a little bit more so that I can get a little bit more opening in the inside seam of the leg, but that may not feel good to you. So choose what feels best for you. If you don't need the blanket, don't use the blanket, right? Only if you feel you need something do you use it. You can also use this between your thigh and your back of calf. Noticing any sensations that come up here. Even if it's that irritated, I would like to get out of this pose. Or, this doesn't feel great, this is uncomfortable. Take some nice deep breaths, maybe exhaling through your mouth. And just commit to holding this pose for time. Letting the pose work for you here. Very gently start to walk your hands back in. Roll to the outside of your left thigh and come all the way down onto your bum. Take your hands behind you and just start to windshield wiper those knees all the way over to the left, side by side, and all the way over to the right. Couple more times to really give yourself a little room to breathe. And one more time each side before we move into our second side. Now maybe it didn't feel appropriate to use a blanket on the last side. Maybe this side it does. Knees are different, right? Have it nearby. Go ahead and take that left leg out, toes up, find that 90-degree angle in the inner seam. Start to fold yourself forward. Find that place where you feel sensation, but not pain, or where you can't breathe, or take a breath, and then start to fold forward. Maybe your toes come down. Maybe like me, you find yourself taking that outer seam of the edge foot down a little bit more to open up that inner thigh and the hamstring. Settling into your breath and your pose, seeing if you can make any small adjustments to make this pose sustainable for the next 3 minutes. This last minute of the pose, maybe deepening the pose or coming out a little bit to make this sustainable for you, and just checking in with your breath and the sensations that come up for you. Maybe those sensations are physical or emotional or mental, and just noting those. Gently starting to come up, pulling that leg in. This time we're going to come on to our hands and knees. I'm going to walk the hands out for a little short melting heart pose. So maybe this is more of a puppy pose for you with your hips further back, or maybe you have your hands straight up overhead, resting your head or chin on the ground, just for about a minute. If this is a lot for your back, go ahead and just engage your core a little bit and take some of that pressure out of the back. And then gently lifting up, walking your hands back in. Here's where the blanket might come in handy for you. Come into a seat to bring the bottoms of your feet together. We're going to come into deer pose. So starting with the bottoms of the feet together and butterfly, leaning over a little bit to the right, you're going to take that left leg back behind you. Now here, a blanket might be useful to tuck underneath your hips or underneath your knee. I try to find my legs in sort of a pinwheel positioning, but really adjust your heels in or out as to what works for you. One hand on the outside, one hand on the inside. You will be leaning a little bit over to the side, but see if you can kind of push yourself up a little bit more upright so you're kind of up and down a little bit more. Here we're getting into the inner seam of the leg, the outer seam, the top of the thigh, and a little bit of the hips and glutes as well. This pose can be quite challenging for a lot of people, just simply because we have one leg in outer rotation and one in inner rotation. Really breathe into those spaces. Maybe you're feeling discomfort on the outer or the inner. Noting that this pose won't last forever. Just one more minute. Starting to allow yourself to lean over toward the right, maybe bringing that right heel in a little bit closer. Start to turn your body. So maybe you end up turned over your front knee. Maybe you turn a little bit further. We're going to deepen this twist. You can take that left leg back a little bit further behind you, staying up on hands or coming down to forearms. Really working into the outer right hip and deep into the core for a nice twist. Very slowly starting to make your way back upright. Swing those legs around. Maybe coming into your butterfly position and waving your butterfly wings. Rocking your hips side to side, whatever movement makes sense for you in between poses. Always take that. And starting back here again in our butterfly, we're going to lean over this time to the left. Bring that right leg back around behind you. Now this may be the leg that's more challenging for you, and that's okay. We all have one, right? Coming into that sort of pinwheel shape as much as you can if that works for you. Props underneath knees if you need to, or underneath your seat. This allows you to bring your glutes down onto something, and it makes you feel a little bit more stable and secure here. One hand inside, one hand outside. Prop yourself up so you're somewhat upright. Notice the differences here on this side and how it may feel very different. You may be feeling it in different areas, or it may be feeling in the same spaces. Just becoming aware of that. about 1 more minute here, making any adjustments that you might need to make, even if that means coming out of the pose. Sometimes even I get muscle cramps. Very gently starting to shift over to that left side. Here again, maybe bringing the heel in a little bit closer and shifting that right leg back a little bit further. Maybe ending up over that left knee or crawling a little bit further back, coming down onto forearms or hands or somewhere in between there, right? Or props. Very gently walking your hands in, coming all the way up. Here again, bringing the bottoms of your feet together if that feels good, or maybe even taking those windshield wiper knees side to side. I like to lift my shoulders and head up for a little back bend in the upper back. And then coming all the way down onto your back. So here we're going to bring the bottoms of the feet together. Let those knees fall out to the side. Take your arms up overhead and then interlace your fingers and take them behind your head. Let those elbows fall out to the side. Now, for some people, your elbows may be still sticking up. That's okay. Gravity will help them come down. I like to tuck my shoulder blades underneath and walk my heels in a little bit closer, really working into the inner thigh, kidney meridians, and also working into liver meridians and upper arm and inner arm and shoulder. Getting as many as I can here. A great big opening for your front body and back body. Gently lift your head, take your hands out, place them alongside your hips. Use your hands to guide your knees back together. Go ahead and walk your heels out to the corners of your mat, pressing through your heels. Tuck your shoulders underneath and press the tops of those shoulders down into the floor, and turn your palms face up for Shavasana for a few breaths here. Keeping in mind that Shavasana is the peak of our poses, the pose that brings it all together, that melds and marries all that you have done, finishes the circle and the cycle of your practice. Think of Shavasana as the giant reset button. After you've shaken everything up, Shavasana settles it into place wherever it needs to be. Reconnecting with your breath, noticing the rise and fall of your belly, chest, and collarbones. Maybe inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth with a sigh. And just one more time, inhaling deeply, sipping in just a little bit more air, and exhaling out through your mouth. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bring the bottoms of your feet flat to the floor, knees toward the ceiling. Arms up overhead, stretching and lengthening. Bring the lower back down to the floor. And exhaling, rolling over to your side. Very carefully making your way back up to a seat. Maybe using your prop. Fingertips down alongside your body, feeling earth beneath you. Inhaling, sweeping palms all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. Sharing one Om together, taking a nice deep inhale. Exhaling Om. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me. Please take a moment to check out the links down below in the description and do what you can. If that is to share, if that is to support, if that is to sponsor an animal, or even maybe you know someone who would like to adopt, then please check out those links down below and do what you can to help these rescue efforts. This is super important to take that time to check those out. If you enjoyed this practice and would like to practice with me more, please check out theyogaranger.bhx.tv, my membership site. Lots of live events and beautiful sharing there. I really try to connect with you one-on-one in a much more personalized community there, and it's a really supportive community. We also donate 10% of all the proceeds from that membership site to rescue groups such as Yoga Stops Yulin rescue groups in this and other groups throughout the year. So a way to give back and get something too. Thank you so much. Have a great week.